I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, and that's our 2013 CII Chairman, Glenn Gilkey. Glenn is Senior Vice President for Human Resources and Administration for Fluor Corporation. At Fluor, Glenn is responsible for global human resources and talent development. Glenn also heads Fluor corporate affairs, including communications, media relations, and community relations, including the Fluor Foundation. Glenn is a 32-year veteran of Fluor and holds a mechanical engineering degree from that small school in Austin, University of Texas. And I've had the pleasure of working with Glenn for a number of years on the executive committee and at the annual conference. He's very passionate about the industry and particularly the people in the industry. And although he did not win the 1983 British Open, he's a pretty darn good golfer. So with that, welcome our chairman, Glenn Gilkey.
That little university.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleased to see you all back after that great lunch and the sessions from this morning. And also, I'm really happy to give you my own welcome here to this 2013 Annual Conference, really a record-setting conference this year. And if this morning's sessions are any indication, I think it's going to be a great conference. And I would be remiss if I didn't just take a second to recognize Wayne Crew and his whole staff for what they do to pull these conferences off. And then my good friend Keith Manning, who went to a smaller school in College Station, for all the work he's done at the conference as well. You know, and I'm really proud to be your chairman for 2013. And what I thought I would do today is provide you a few thoughts on the construction industry, where it's going. Of course, after Jim's speech this morning, I don't think I can top that. That was just a tremendous keynote this morning. Then I also want to talk a little bit about how you as an individual and how you can help your company really maximize the value and leverage your investment in CII. So this first graph, I just want to share with you some interesting statistics from IHS on construction spending. And before I go any further, I really invite you to attend Sarah Johnson's keynote tomorrow. Sarah is a senior researcher with IHS, and she has a lot more information and a lot more data to share about construction spending, not just for next year, but really for the next decade. And it's very promising, and it's something I know all of us are extremely interested in hearing about. So here on this slide, just real quickly, you can see on the top bars on the slide, construction spending is expected to go up, and these are in trillions of dollars, from $6.2 trillion in 2012 up to $7.8 trillion in 2017. That's a global number, and I can assure you all the contractors in this room are probably hoping to get more than their fair share of that number there. On a regional basis, you see the same thing, growth in pretty much every region. So I think what we're beginning to see, it started last year, but you're beginning to see the rebound of the global economy, and I think all of us are really poised to take advantage of that. So really the question it really begs is, on top of all that great news, you know, what can we do as an organization, or what can you do as a person to really help your organization prepare for the work that's coming up? And I'm going to give you a few hints on how to do that. So first off, at this conference, we have several research teams presenting. There's several presentations happening that really you should take advantage of to help not only yourself as an individual, but your company succeed. So if you're concerned about overall construction productivity, I don't know anybody in our industry that is not. I hope you caught the RT 272 this morning. And there's some other presentations tomorrow and this afternoon as well. If you're interested in how to improve project cost and schedule certainty, that research team is reporting out this afternoon and tomorrow as well. And then finally, if you're interested in how to improve project cost and schedule certainty as well as site safety performance, you can attend those sessions too. Now I think a lot of us are also focused on workforce development. And we're all faced with challenges of the brain drain we see coming with the retirement of a lot of our baby boomers. Well, CII has you covered there as well. As you can see here, there's 5 different things you can attend to really help with workforce development. And then finally, if global expansion is in your plans and you want to figure out how do you implement these best practices across different cultures, we have a research team presenting out on that one as well. So how does all this come together? Well, it's really not magic. CII is based on really being a knowledge center enterprise, and these are the 4 main knowledge areas that you learn about as you become active in CII. And CII continues to deliver value, not just to the industry in total, but to its member companies by focusing in these areas. And as a member-driven research organization, there's opportunities for everyone in this room to get involved, and people that aren't in this room back in the firms that you represent to get involved as well. And I definitely believe, and I know from my own personal belief and for the many people I know here today, as you get more involved, you definitely do get more out of this organization. So how should you and your firm maximize your investment in CII? And I remember my first annual conference. It wasn't quite as big as this, but it was probably equally as intimidating. You come into a room, there's a bunch of people there, and you don't know many people. And if you see someone with the green sticker on their badge, that doesn't mean that their company is new. It just means that person is its first time at the annual conference. So if you see someone with the green ribbon on their badge, please take the time to go up and him or her introduce yourself. You know, maybe have a talk with them, help introduce them around, because that's how you really get engaged in this great organization. The other thing you can do is, if you hear something this week, get up off your seat and go talk to one of the presenters in one of the implementation sessions or one of the staff and figure out how you can get more involved. For many of us, it starts by being involved on a research team. And Wayne showed you earlier this morning the research team needs. If one of those is of interest to you, please come see Wayne and some of his staff or any one of the folks you see up here on the podium. We can definitely get your name on those lists. The other thing you can do is get involved in the community of practice. Those community of practices exist across those knowledge areas, and once again, it's an easy way to participate with peers that are also focused on those same areas of interest that you have as well. And I guarantee you, if you do, your company will benefit from this, and you will as an individual as well. Now, many firms like Fluor, and I know Zachary does, as well as many other firms in this room, ConocoPhillips, also look at CII as an opportunity to really help with leadership development and the development of your people. And I'm not just talking about the next generation of leaders, but your current leaders as well. There's very few opportunities that we have to, I'll say, practice leadership. And if you are on a research team or on a standing committee, a lot of us in our working lives may have direct reports that kind of have to do what you tell them to do. When you're on a research team, you're with 12 or 15 peers, half are owners, half are contractors, and 2 academics. And it's just interesting to see that dynamics of leadership develop in those teams. And if you participate in that, you definitely learn a lot about leadership for yourself, and you can take that back to your company. So I just wanted to just share with you a few final thoughts about CII and what you can learn. First is our Next Generation Leaders Program. You see a couple of us with these little badges on. If you don't have one and you want one, go see the Next Gen Leaders booth out there, and they'll talk to you about what the Next Gen Leaders Program is all about, and they'll get you hooked up with the badge. And I think one of the things that all of our companies are struggling with or concerned about is, who are the next generation of leaders that are going to take over after many of us of my generation head off into the sunset? And I know many of you have your own internal leadership development programs. I know Fluor does as well. But I can guarantee you there's a different richness that they'll gain by integrating and communicating with their peers at the leadership level across different owner firms and contractor firms, and it really will help them. I'll just put out a really passionate plea today in the Next Gen Leaders COP. It's mostly made up of contractor members. So I'd just like to implore any of the owners that are here in the audience, please ask your next generation leaders to participate as well. I know for a lot of us that are on the contracting side, we've made very deep and rich relationships through our efforts here on CII, and those relationships always come into play when you're dealing with the difficult situations that happen on projects. So if you're an owner, please consider having some of your next generation leaders sign up for, if they're here, visit the booth, and then obviously sign up for that community of practice. So finally, this morning, Wayne also mentioned an alliance that we formed with CMMA. Back in, I guess we all know that having the best practice is one thing, and then having an accredited professional in the field that understands the best practice and is trained on how to implement it is sometimes a different thing. It's critical for our construction leadership to really have that in their toolkit. And what we found with CMMA is an accreditation process that gives that level of surety that they understand what those best practices are. This relationship started back in 2009, and CII met with CMMA and formed our association called Best Practices and Best Practitioners. What CII was looking for was a professional certification that we could use to help us understand who are the certified professionals that really understand how to implement these best practices. And we saw their CCM accreditation, and we thought that had a lot of promise. So here we are almost 4 years later. Our CII best practices guides have been integrated into CMMA's CCM examination study kit and into their current course curricula. And we have had a great team led by Manny Garcia from the CII side for us, really helping to understand and integrate both CMMA's body of knowledge as well as CII's. And today, I think we have a tool and an examination that we at CII believe does test for and validate that these professionals do understand best practices and how to implement them. So you'll find some basic CCM information in your registration packet, so I encourage you to look at that. And then also there's a kiosk out in the hallway where we have some of the CMMA guys hanging out. Please stop by and talk to them as well. And then in my final bullet, networking and having fun. I know in my career and across the different projects and entities I've been associated with, networking was a code word for drinking. And I believe that there will be some adult beverages consumed this week in Orlando. And that's all well and good, just be safe, but also please take the opportunity. There's not many venues like this where we definitely have a lot of the leading corporations, not just on the contractor side, but leading organizations on the owner side, as well as academics. It's a great opportunity to meet some old friends, make some new friends, and really just catch up. So with that, and to try to keep us on schedule, I just wanted to say thank you and have a great conference.